The Japanese word hikikomori can now be found in the Oxford English Dictionary. In 2016, the Cabinet Office estimated that 540,000 people aged 15 to 39 in Japan were hikikomori, recluses from society. The ranks of working-age hikikomori are swelling. It's said that the annual economic cost to Japan is over 1 trillion yen. Today, we meet a man who is helping these people reintegrate themselves back into society.
このバッグでいただいてもよろしいですか?
Naohiro Kimura, editor-in-chief of Hikikomori News. After academic setbacks, at age 18, he withdrew from society and remained secluded for over a decade.
いきなり就労っていうところに行くにはすごい難しいと思うんですけれども。
In 2016, he founded this newspaper as a forum for people like him. With current and former hikikomori among its staff, the newspaper offers readers a point of re-entry to the world.
もう30年以上やってて時々出てくるようになったっていうのはこれやっぱり私にとっては大きな変化ですね。
As the subject of hikikomori increasingly draws international attention, Kimura is reaching out to a wider audience.
引きこもり当事者自身も決して安住していたい状態ではないので、この先長い人生の中で大切にできるような人間関係っていうものを形成できるそういう支援を作っていきたいなっていうふうには考えています。
Through Kimura's activities, we consider the challenges facing hikikomori and the support needed to help them step back into society. Our interviewer is Robert Campbell, an academic well-versed in Japanese society and culture. Kimura asked to meet at a place he visited regularly for a year.
Kimura-san? Yes, I'm Robert Campbell. Hello. Nice to meet you. You wanted to meet here. What sort of place is this?
It's a photo studio. Let's go inside.
The studio is adjacent to a vocational college where Kimura studied photography.
This is my camera.
Nice, but what's the connection to your story?
Well, studying at this place helped me get over my period as a hikikomori. I'd always felt trapped, but then I took up photography. And I realized it was something I enjoyed doing. It gave me a different way to approach life, a new sense of direction.
So this place means a lot to you.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Big smile. Thank you very much. Taking photos lets someone like me look at a person through a lens without any sense of pressure. It allows people who feel awkward about talking to strike up a conversation, so it's a good communication tool for hikikomori.
Thank you. Nice photo. What led you to photography in the first place?
When I was a hikikomori, I became friends with a girl online. She wanted me to take a photo of her with a single-lens reflex camera.
Straight out of a TV drama. That's how it sounds.
Yes. I really wanted to hit it off with her. And since I didn't know how to use a single-lens reflex camera, I decided to come to this photography school. It seemed that winning recognition from the opposite sex works wonders in terms of getting hikikomori outside the home. But the challenge of hikikomori can't be solved that easily. It takes time. Hikikomori are very sensitive. There's always the possibility that you've lost your sense of being able to connect with other people. So even if someone has a new desire to get outside, that doesn't mean he or she has improved from the state of being a hikikomori.
As a boy, Kimura had lots of friends and was full of energy. There was no hint of what was to come. But he failed to get into the university of his choice, and he also failed the national bar exam. He severed ties with his friends and stopped talking to his family with whom he lived. He became a recluse for over a decade.
When you were in high school, did you have any inkling of how you'd end up?
Well, I didn't think I'd become a hikikomori, if that's what you mean. I just thought I'd get a job, embark on some sort of career, I guess. That was basically my thought.
What was it like, being a hikikomori?
At first, I felt relieved. I no longer had to deal with complex human relationships, so I enjoyed being on my own. But that didn't last for long. As I spent more time alone, I became increasingly depressed. There were days when I felt so lethargic I couldn't get out of bed. Of course, there were times when I had no choice. I had to leave the room to use the bathroom or find something to eat. And I would literally crawl out. That's how it was. When I was a hikikomori, I didn't want anyone to see the kind of life I was leading. So I shut myself away, cut off from all human contact. I was ashamed of my inability to lead a normal life. My life had been derailed, and I blamed myself. But I was frustrated and couldn't think of a way to vent my anger, so I ended up arguing with my parents most of the time.
You became a hikikomori. You severed all ties with the outside world. So what about that relationship with your parents? How did it work out?
I basically didn't want to talk to them. I couldn't bear the sight of them, so I avoided them as much as possible.
Why did you start to feel that way toward your parents? Any insights?
I guess because they refused to acknowledge my way of life. They tried to make me give up the idea of studying for the national bar exam, saying that everyone else my age was already working, that I was the only one who wasn't pulling my weight. I suppose they thought that applying pressure on me would force me to give up. They probably expected me to settle down, but from my perspective, they never gave serious thought to what I really wanted out of life. That's how I felt. I'm to blame too. We refused to listen to each other. While I was a hikikomori, arguing with my parents was exhausting, and I'm sure my parents felt the same way too. But I felt I was being driven into a corner.
Kimura and his mother still go to counseling once a month. They work with Tamaki Saito, a psychiatrist who is noted for the treatment of hikikomori. Saito believes one of the keys to recovery lies in rebuilding the parent-child relationship. Counseling is always handled by two doctors.
お母さんから見ていかがですか？新聞の活動に関して。読まれてます？そうですか。見せてないの？
そうですね。今日も持っていくの忘れました。
Kimura and his mother converse via the doctors. Kimura is usually unable to speak to his mother without getting upset, but here he can express his true feelings.
あんまりこうあれこれ言ったりするよりは距離をちょっと置いたり。
それどう思いますか？親との距離感みたいなもの。
いやまあまあそうですね。てかなんか今まで親がすごいなんていうんですかね、鬱陶しいぐらいに視界に入ってきたんですけど、今はもうなんかもう頭の中に完全にいなくなってます。それが快適です。
じゃあ距離感としては 今の状況はさほど不満がないというか、
そうですね、
今ぐらいでちょうどいいかもしれないとはあるわけですね。はい、
やっぱり家族の問題だから外には抜けられない。できることなら自立するまで面倒見なくちゃみたいな、もうできないって言えなかったっていう。でもだんだんこの診察重ねてるうちに自分がいいと思ってしてることはそれは良くなかったな、あんまり干渉することも良くなかったんだなって気づけたので前に進めるようになった。
In the 1970s, Japan witnessed a surge of hikikomori. One factor was said to be people failing to cope with stiff academic competition. A 2016 survey indicated that for over 40%, the trigger was failure to enter a good company or excel at work. Long-term hikikomori are becoming common, and more older people are being affected. Social factors are involved.
日本の親御さんっていうのは子供が思春期を過ぎてもですね、彼らの人生をコントロールする傾向が強いんですよね。非常に手元に置いてかくまいながらですね、自分でなんとかこう説得をしたりとか知った激励をしたりとかしてですね、それでマットの人間にもう一回、作り直そうと。むしろ自立ができないんだったら準備期間は家にずっといなさいというプレッシャーが強いんで、それが長引いていくと必然的にずっとにとどまる、つまり引きこもり状態ですよね。
I imagine there were many people that helped you improve from being a hikikomori.
Yes. I started to feel that I could trust Dr. Saito, and then he invited me to join his running group. There were certainly things like that.
That must have been a big step, interacting with total strangers, running together with them. Do you think that did anything to change the way you felt inside?
Well, no one said anything about me being a hikikomori. There was no sense of being looked down on for not working. They simply accepted me as a fellow runner. That was a major breakthrough. Dr. Saito refers to this sense of acceptance as human medicine. Once a hikikomori is able to start reconnecting with people, the recovery process begins. You start to feel at ease with yourself.
Looking at the situation in Japan, there's a tendency among hikikomori to shut themselves off for many years. And these days, hikikomori are getting older. What do you think about these developments as a current hikikomori?
I think one of the main reasons why hikikomori has become such a serious problem is that families are unable to seek help from a third party. Family members want to understand what is going on inside the mind of a hikikomori, but because there's already a breakdown in communication, it's difficult for them to understand that mindset. Without proper support, the problem tends to get aggravated, and that makes the period of hikikomori longer. It's a problem for the entire family, the parents too. It would be a good idea for parents to meet and share their feelings. It could help to cheer them up, which is part of the healing process.
It's important to have comprehensive support, and that includes setting up family support groups.
May I ask you a question? How do people in other countries regard the problem of hikikomori in Japan? What sort of image do they have of hikikomori?
Well, it seems that the word hikikomori has come into use in English over the last decade or so. So more people understand it. You see it in English publications. And what this indicates is that there's no English equivalent for the concept. In the United States, which is where I'm from, parents encourage children over the age of 18 to become independent. And this is true regardless of the family's financial situation. It's the norm. It has nothing to do with how well you get along with your parents. So the fact that so many young people continue to live with their parents really strikes people. And that's especially true when you hear that both the children and the parents see nothing positive about the situation. And that seems odd. But that doesn't mean the problem is non-existent outside Japan. In fact, a member of my own family has severed ties with the rest of us twice over the last couple of years. We lost all contact with her. She's now receiving medical help and counseling, so it's clear that we too have our share of people who withdraw from society, but we don't use the word hikikomori that much.
I see.
Now, tell me about your newspaper. How did it come about?
There was a very disciplinary support group that started to draw attention a while ago. They claimed that the best way to treat hikikomori was to take them out of the home, institutionalize them, and force them to work. I started to think that people might believe them. That was my worry. The fact is that the majority of hikikomori are struggling to come to terms with their life. They have doubts about the meaning of life. It's an existential crisis. So even if you forced a hikikomori to work, that wouldn't solve the underlying problem. In a sense, the decision to launch the newspaper was prompted by this support group. They provided the underlying motivation. I felt the need to speak out against them.
In November 2016, Kimura launched Hikikomori News. Do I have the right to live? It hurts to see others thriving. The newspaper gives hikikomori a voice. Kimura wants to convey information on events to support the families of hikikomori. Kimura has come to visit a hikikomori support group with over 10 branches nationwide.
第4の人？あ、そうです。僕が木村と言います。木村さんな。はい。
He wants to provide his readership with information on this group's services. The two colleagues he's with were also hikikomori.
じゃあよろしくお願いいたします。で、僕もやっぱりいきなり就労っていうところに行くにはすごい難しいと思うんですけれども。
ボランティアなんていっぱいあるよ。そういう手を使うねん。それでええねん。そこで社会参加したらええねん。
じゃあ外いただいてます。
Kimura has traveled around the country promoting the paper. He's sold over 3,000 copies in 6 months.
はい、じゃあすみません。いただきます。はい、じゃあお願いします。
まだ独身か。
去年引きこもりを脱出したばかりで。
頑張るの、頑張る。
ありがとうございました。はい、どうもありがとうございました。助かりました。
出発。
はい。
Working on the newspaper has helped Kimura in his efforts to interact with others. Once a month, Kimura holds an editorial meeting.
いやもう完全に引きこもりっていう名前出してちゃんと相談窓口開いてます。
Most of the staff here have at one point been withdrawn from society.
3月号を読んで、はい、正直ちょっと重いかなと思ったんですよね。
つまりどうしても暗い話にしか取れないからしんどくて読めないから、もし最後の結末が明るかったら先頭持ってきたらいいっていう話はあって、それはぜひ採用したいなと思いますね。
This is a writer who became a hikikomori because of stress related to heavy parental pressure. As he's good at English, he's been contributing to the web version of the paper in English.
まあこの引きこもり新聞の中にあるポジションを得てねやってるので今のところ私精一杯だけど去年の11月まで私の引きこもり生活には存在しないような時間がたくさん入ってきましたね。これやっぱり私にとっては大きな変化ですねやっぱりね。
One of the newcomers is a woman. She too is a hikikomori.
ぱり来ることでしかこう感じられないものだったり、話せないことだったりあると思うので、この人と人とのつながりっていうのをこう、これからもこう続けていけたらいいなと思ってます。
はい、じゃあ編集会議お疲れ様でした。
Kimura holds a get-together after every editorial meeting. The newspaper started out with a staff of 15. Now, over 60 people are involved.
I'm sure the families who read the paper, including your own, are really interested in learning what hikikomori are saying. But what about the hikikomori themselves? What sort of feedback have you received so far?
I'd say the majority of the letters we receive are from people who were able to relate to the content. They'll tell us that they experienced the same kind of feeling. Most hikikomori are overcome with a sense of isolation, so I'm hoping the newspaper will help them understand that they're not alone. I want them to know that there are people who share their experiences and understand what they're going through.
When you're writing for a newspaper, I'd imagine that simply interviewing people can be very stressful, regardless of whether or not you're hikikomori.
At first, we asked people about their experiences. Gradually, as we gained experience and confidence, we stepped out of our comfort zone. Recently, we did a feature on Shinya Tanaka, a former hikikomori and winner of the Akutagawa Literary Award. So it's been a learning curve.
What are your hopes for the newspaper staff? How will this experience help them?
Basically, we're all volunteers. It's a labor of love. But I'm hoping that eventually we'll be able to make a business out of it. That's one thing. Also, if we can pay contributors a fee, I'm hoping that they will come to think of their experiences differently. I want them to see that those experiences have value. I also want them to realize that they're helping others by telling us what they're going through.
I'm sure there are many people who want to reconnect with society and achieve something, but maybe they're unable to step out into the world.
It's not as if the hikikomori are satisfied with their situation. With some support, they'll make an effort to reconnect with society on their own initiative, reconnect with other people.
So they do want to step out of their comfort zone. They don't want to simply stay put.
The problem is there are very few places where hikikomori can relax and talk with other hikikomori. If people can get together, I'm sure they'll be able to find a way to reconnect with society. So it's really important to provide them with places where they can interact and be free to say what they think. I hope to provide access to that sort of information with the newspaper.
So that kind of thing would provide hikikomori with more opportunities to interact with other people.
Yes. Well, I believe that hikikomori are people with a desire to be of use to others. They're struggling to make sense of their lives. For example, some of my staff managed to improve by working for the newspaper. It gave them an opportunity to get into the swing of work. We've actually had people who found employment. In fact, one of them became a newspaper journalist.
Really? Oh, wow. What aspects of the paper would you like to emphasize in the future?
At present, the main purpose of the Hikikomori News is to provide information about the circumstances that hikikomori are currently facing. But I'm thinking of providing counseling services and outreach programs to help families to communicate. I'm interested in setting up some form of support network that builds relationships based on trust.
A lot about Kimura-san's experience in media, so maybe I can ask.
Today, Kimura is being interviewed by an American web-based news service. They want information that can be of use to people in the United States who are living reclusive lives.
The new thing here is that they're doing something different. They want to dispel this stereotype.
Similar interview requests regularly come from Europe and Asia. And the newspaper is being translated into Italian.
イタリアの引きこもりの人たちとつながることができて、グローバル引きこもりオーガナイゼーションを作ろうっていう話が出てる。
できそうですか？
いずれできるんじゃないのかなと思います。やっぱり世界的な問題にこれからなっていくだろうと思うので。
We asked Kimura to write a kanji character that reflects his strongest concerns. He chose a character which means meet.
You chose ao, which means to meet or encounter. So why this kanji?
I believe meeting someone you can trust is the key to improving from being a hikikomori. Such meetings are crucial in order to step out into the world.
I see.
The Hikikomori news came about through meetings like that. I hope that they will help bring people together and encourage them to create something new.
Great.
Another thing is that hikikomori is not a phenomenon limited to Japan, so we need to go beyond a narrow sense of connection. It's important for people like this throughout the world to be able to meet and join forces. That's what I believe.
Yes, of course. Family structures may differ from country to country. And of course there are differences in society itself and the sort of welfare and medical systems that are available. But actually, the experiences and problems faced by hikikomori are probably quite similar throughout the world.
If people all over the world can join forces in seeking a solution to this challenge, I'm sure we'll be able to make progress.